What the hell is wrong with me? Now, this could be a question that you can ask because if you've been following my journey for the past while, you probably know that in October of 2025, I'm filming this in July of 2026. In October of 2025, I released my fourth studio album after nearly 3 years of working on it on and off. And now, around October or November of this year, 2026, I am releasing my fifth studio album, almost less than a year after the fifth one. In this video, I will be trying to explain the impetus, the reason for this project existing, the methodology that I'll be using in order to be as efficient as possible for creating the entire thing, as well as the gear and some of the logistics that I'm using for and implementing for making the best possible version of this album. This is the most different and out of left field project that I've ever done, and hopefully I will ever do, because I am not a huge fan of the general tone and of the general level of anger that exists in this album. But it is something I need to do. I need to get off my system because I've been holding these moments and angry feelings in myself for more than 2 decades. And last year, they kind of started oozing out of me. So let's go back to the beginning and talk about what is going on, why this album exists, and where it came from. So this album is called Fill the World with Teeth, and sometimes I deliberately misspell it as Feel the World with Teeth, but I think based on the context and the lyrics, Fill the World with Teeth is going to be what's going to be written on the artwork, on the packages, on the CDs, maybe on vinyl, but we'll get there when we get there. And the reason that thing is called the way it's called is because I remember last year, 14th of July was, for the people who may not know, July 14th is Bastille Day, which is the day that like the big French Revolution happened. And every year they celebrate. It's like the French National Day. It's like the France's birthday, as I call it. And I was out, I was looking at the fireworks in a place just like this. People were happy, big explosions in the sky, and cheers, and joyful screams, and a lot of good energy and good vibes. Now I was born in a country in the Middle East that currently is at war. At that time last year, for whatever reason, my brain thought of the sky, of the world I left behind. There definitely was explosions in the sky at the same time, and screaming and shouting, but of a different kind. And so I thought to myself that, well, the sky is going to be filled with teeth trying to bite down on people's happiness and joy and vibes. So that's the origin of the name. I first heard the phrase "fill the world with teeth" in a video game that I like very much, but in that context it was a very different story. But it somehow stayed with me that what the authors meant, like what was in the writer's mind when they wrote that phrase. And to me, the idea was that we could fill the world with fireflies and fireworks and nice things, but instead we're just filling them with teeth. And that's the image, that's the naming, that's the reason. The third track of this album is a title track, and it's quite a long track as well. And that is my approach, my opinion, I don't know what word to use, my perception or feeling towards aggression in general. This album could be perceived as in many different ways, under many different colors, and that's one of the reasons why I'm still hesitant for releasing it, because I never associated myself with any kind of activism, any kind of I'm with this group, I'm against. It's not really my place in the world. It's a story of why I hate, burning rage hate, violence and anger and war and aggression. And it happens that the impetus and the origin story of this goes back to, well, the people I cared about being subjugated to this kind of violence. This album is, right now, it has 12, maybe 13 tracks. And to date, it is the longest album in terms of the length, the lyrics, and in my opinion, the angriest I've ever been. If you've heard any of my songs, if you've heard any of the artistic creations that I've had the chance and the opportunity and the privilege of making, I always try to use my art, my music as a bonding device, as a hopefully, I don't know, good feelings, if it makes any sense, machine. And this is the only time that I'm breaking my own rule. And there is a song on that album about it called The Promise. And the lyrics of that song opens with this exact line, that I broke my promise. Because I promised myself I would always be a voice of happiness and positivity. I still think this album can be positive. It probably is. But it definitely isn't calm and soothing. And I think I've talked enough about the abstracts and the concepts behind this. So let's head back home to my little home studio and talk about the gear that I'm using, how I'm using them, and how I'm trying to make everything as efficient as possible without cutting any corners or making any unnecessary compromises. Because ultimately, I want to have this project done, and as an indie artist and also as a teacher as well, I am a firm believer of done being better than perfect but atemporal. Done means I can do it in 2 weeks. Perfect means I can do it when it's ready, and I don't want to fall in that trap again, because last time I did that, my album, my fourth studio album, the one I put out last year, took almost 5 years. Is it perfect? I like to think it's really good, but I don't want to do perfect. I want to do done, because after perfect, you don't want to do things anymore. Let's go back to the studio. All right, back in the studio, and the next several minutes of this video are going to be about gear and hardware, software, and everything in between them. So if you're not interested in any of these things, I think you can just skip the rest of this video, because probably there's going to be nothing super interesting for you. Hopefully I'll try to make it entertaining anyway, but if this is where you get off this train, thank you for watching. I hope you had a good time. If you are here still, however, let's talk about the guitars that I'm using and the reasons behind each of them, the cables, the interface, the computer, the program, and everything else. Okay, in order for my choices to make sense, I should try and explain to the best of my abilities the style, the genre, and the vibes of this album. In terms of its musical tone or its musicality, this album is a blend among heavy metal, progressive metal, and alternative rock. And so that means heavy guitar sounds, very compressed and saturated voices, very loud drums, and generally speaking, everything is like dialed up to 11 in terms of the intensity. It's a very intense album. For the majority of the album, the guitars are going to be recorded in stereos, and that means hard panning. So I will record everything twice with two different guitars. So one ear you will be hearing one guitar, in the other ear you will be hearing a different guitar. Same performance, I will be playing all of the guitars, all of the acoustics, all of the electrics, all of the bass guitars. Some of the guitar solos I've asked my dear friend Mayar back in the old country to help me out with them, because I want his signature, his touch to be present in this album as well. But for other parts, I will be playing the guitar solos on the album myself. The keys, the piano, like everything else, I play myself. This is the first time that I'm doing pretty much like everything in the album myself, and it's very scary. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I mentioned that there's going to be two different guitar takes. For the majority of the sounds, when it comes to guitars, I will be using my ESP Snakebite, the James Hetfield signature, for the main guitar sections and the main guitar rhythms. This has the JH set, the active pickups, and so this is going to be a lot of the aggression will come from this guitar. And for a different pair, in order to make it a bit more balanced, I will be using my Harley Benton SC1000, the single cut, the custom. It has Tesla pickups. These are passive pickups, but they still have a bite. They still have some kind of aggression in them. And so together they will sound hopefully really well. In my early testings, I really like the way the distortions sound. For the clean parts, I might use these two guitars, or I might use my old 1958 Goth Epiphone Explorer. These have the humbuckers in them. This is a very old guitar. This is a relic guitar. And even though on paper this should be the ideal guitar for making a metal record, when I record this with the other two guitars, I don't like the way they blend, and I kind of want to use a different kind of tonality, because for the longest time, for the past several albums, this has been my main guitar, so I'm trying to change things up. But I will use this when I'm looking for something specific. There's 3 sections in 3 different songs that I'm using this guitar exclusively. I think we'll talk about them at a later time. This album, by the way, is, other than one song, is recorded in D standard, and so all of the strings are D standard strings. The other song that is called Invisible Scars is recorded in dropped C. The acoustic sections of the album will be recorded using my D'Angelico. This is my D'Angelico Premiere, the New York version of it. You can see the Empire State on the headstock. I adore the sound of this acoustic. This is probably my second favorite guitar of all time after my Snakebite. It just has a tiny bit more personality than you would expect from an acoustic guitar, and I love it because when you record it and you listen to it, it is unbelievably cool. And last but not least, for the bass guitars of the album, I am using this Sire, the M2 by Marcus Miller 5-string bass. And you can see the truss strut cover is open because I was adjusting its action, because it turns out when you have a very low instrument and you tune it super low, you tend to hear a lot of, fret buzz. But it's okay now, it's ready to go. It has active or passive pickups, and I can blend the pickups with like all of these knobs down here. I'm still learning how to work with this guitar. It's a very alien instrument to me, even though I started learning the guitar with a bass guitar. At the time I had an Ibanez, I think it was an Ibanez 4-string, very, very student version. It had like a volume and a tone knob. This has a tiny bit more knobs. But I'm learning, and all of the bass guitars that you will be hearing on the album, 95%, will be my own. We'll be recorded using these. For my MIDI controller and my main keyboard, maybe I should do a B-roll, but I am using the Native Instrument Complete Control. I think this is the 1, 2, 3, this is the 5-octave version of it. I could have gone for a larger scale, but I have a very limited space. This is going to be every piano, every pad, every stringed instrument that you hear will be programmed through this, as well as the drums, because as much as I like to use real drums, as much as I like to have Andres in a recording studio rocking out to all of the grooves and putting them onto the record, I am currently unable to mix real drums, like multiple lines. I don't know how to do it, and since I am engineering the album as well as mixing and mastering it probably, I'd rather, as I told you in the previous section, I'd rather have the album done than being like perfect. But all of the lines that I'm writing and I'm programming, I am making sure that there's as much humanityism as possible, which will probably be a subject for a different video for like programming the drums. But it's not like machine, like quantize everything to perfection. I try to use as much of human energy as I can, as well as using the common phrases that I know Andres likes to use when he plays the drums, to have an essence of him in the record as well. All of those guitars that you saw, all of those instruments that you saw, are hooked up with cables to my audio interface. And for my audio interface, I am using the Analog Audio Zen Quadro the Synergy Core. This has 4 inputs and 2 outputs, and this is a beast. It's a bit hard to set up in the beginning because there's so many things you need to learn about it. But once you get the hang of it, I'm able to do things that I wasn't able to do before I got the thing, and it's really, really good. I also have a secondary audio interface. When I want to do recording in a remote way, I just have one microphone, and I use this Moano audio interface, the Pro Studio. It has one microphone input and one guitar input. There are a couple of places that I will take this with me to record some ambient sounds and maybe some church bells, some like train station announcements and airport announcements, things of that nature, which will all make sense when you listen to the album. But I won't take my analog audio with me because I kind of like it to stay on my desk. I am using, for the listening experience, my main studio speakers are PreSonus, the Eris 3.5 inches, the Gen 2.1s. They're quite tiny, but they pack a punch. Again, I am living in a studio, like a student studio apartment. I don't have the luxury of being in my old studio with tons of gear, and I'm making this as indie as possible. For monitoring the audio and testing my mix, I have a bunch of different headphones and in-ears, as well as like some on-the-go headphones that I use to test everything in different environments. But my main listening device is my Beyerdynamic DT770 Pro 80 ohm. This is like my main listening thing. I will be mixing a part of the album on this as well, since I trust these a bit more than the speakers, because I am in an untreated room. Recently, Beyerdynamic, the company, they released a program that makes these headphones completely flat and allows you to mix as if you are in a well, as close as you can, in a real studio environment. I love it very much. For my PC and for my software, this past January, through people who are very close to the matters, I was informed that within the next few weeks from that date, the prices will skyrocket in a very bad way. So I very rapidly built what I consider to be a very powerful computer. I am on PC, I don't use Mac, and I am using Steinberg Cubase 14 Artist. I would have liked to use 14 or 15 Pro, but the price difference between these two versions right now, to me, it doesn't make a sense. But the price difference between these two devices right now for me doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe I change my mind through the process of the album. It's very rare that I change DAWs when I'm in the middle of an album, but I am using Cubase 14 Artist. For my microphones, I have two main condensers. This is my old buddy, the Audio-Technica AT2020, and I have a Lewitt 441 Flex inside the makeshift booth there. We were recording the backing vocals with Alexandre a couple of days ago, so it's still there. And these two microphones together, they give me exactly what I want for vocals and for acoustic guitars. Have I told you everything? 100% of all of the guitar sounds that you are hearing will be recorded as DI tracks, and then they will be reamped. And I'm at this point completely certain that I will be using the Bogren Digital amp bundles. I'm using the Trivium set, the rhythm for the rhythm sections, the lead for the melody sections. Sometimes I use the lead without the delay and the chorus, and I change the impulse response to some of my old impulse responses. They allow me to mix and match, but 99%, maybe even 100% of the entire sound of the guitars will be, it will be using those, like that specific amp plugin. A recommendation for indie artists, if you're watching this video still, don't buy things at the asking price. These things go frequently on sale. I've bought everything for this album within the past few months, and I have spent, I would say, maybe relatively 1,000 to 1,200 euros less than what the things would have cost. That's because I picked everything up on sales. And there's no way in fresh hell that a computer like that a DAW is worth 700 euros. It's impossible. And a lot of times the asking prices of these programs are a bit overvalued, so that they can trick us into like slashing the prices to half off. Well, in reality, even half off, it's still overpriced. So my biggest recommendation is that if you don't want to go down the route of piracy, which is a valid excuse if you don't want to spend things, but if you're making money from your music, it's between you and your own conscience. I buy everything that I'm using because I've lived the life of piracy. I prefer the life of constrained but original licensed programs. Don't buy anything at the asking price. Wait for sales. These things go on sale very frequently. Probably in a different video, I'll talk about all of the plugins that I'm using. The last thing I want to talk to you about is the guitar picks that I'm using. For a big majority of the sections, I will be using my own custom pick. These are, I custom ordered them. They are made, I want to say, out of, it's not plastic, I don't know the name of the material, but it's really good because when you're playing it specifically with acoustics, like with the acoustic guitar, it sounds really good. And for heavier guitars, like guitar parts, if I can find my heavy pick, where the hell is the thing? Hello? There we go. I use the Clayton 1, the bass picks. These are like big triangle picks. And even though they seem a bit unconventional, I learned how to play electric guitar with bass picks, and these have been like my best friends. I believe these are the Iced Earth Customs, but this is Clayton, the USA 1.0, and they sound very brutal for heavy rhythms if you're comfortable with the bigger picks. I believe I've covered all of the basics. Maybe in a different video I'll talk to you a bit more about the plugins and the methodology that I'm using for recording the album and processing of it. I think this is going to be the end of this video. I don't want this one to be super long. The next video is going to be about the logistics and like the program of how I'm approaching the recording the album, the song chart, as well as the financing behind it and how I am able to make ends meet living as a teacher and making an album and funding it myself. I sound good? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are staying safe, staying sane, and I will be seeing you in the next video. Take care, and don't let them fill your world with teeth.